Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics about spirituality, deeper introspection, and well, other topics as well, game design, game interpretation, but mostly this channel will be about spirituality and different quirky questions and things that I prefer, asking people about, more from a sense of letting them or triggering a curiosity in them so that they can get to experience certain things, okay, and think about certain things without getting too attached over the over whatever ideas they end up having. Okay, now the topic that I thought of for this video is kind of somewhat funny. The question is, can you be an undead? And from a certain standpoint, chances are you already are an undead. Okay, now it might sound very problematic to many. Okay, it might sound um, like a swear, if you make someone an undead, but many people nowadays are running away from responsibilities. If you run away from responsibilities, there is a problem because you're running away from most of your existence. And if you're running away from your existence, chances are your existence is not very pleasant. So people having a lot of unpleasantries in their life, okay, they will try to do everything possible so that these unpleasantries are simply left behind. Okay, that is why, let's say, for one reason, a lot of people might do something like this. They might actually want to run away from who they are. Okay, and for example, some people will simply do a lot of bad things, okay, one after the other, because people are conscious. Okay, everyone is conscious of the fact that you simply cannot run away. Okay, you simply cannot run away from the truth. But many people prefer, actually many people end up in this let me actually find my words. Okay, many people end up in a situation in which their comfort zone is doing a lot of bad things to others. Okay, they might actually be unconscious enough that they don't realize the extent of damage that they are doing, okay, to other people, but to a certain extent they kind of know. Okay, it's just that their awareness is very low, and it allows an easy masking of realizing the pain that you're provoking to others. But all this pain is becoming a comfort zone for many people, because if you do something or live in a certain situation for a time long enough, you're gonna end up taking that for granted. Okay, you're gonna end up taking that for good, for what it is, and you're gonna consider it the new normal. And nowadays we can actually look around with mandatory face masks or government mandated muzzles, those things that you put on a dog so that they don't bite. It's like society is looking to turn these face masks into the new normal, and if you look at so many people, it's already the new normal for a lot of them. So the point about this video is about a type of death, okay, and probably the worst one, called undeath. Okay, now what an undeath actually means, okay, or a undead being actually is, it's a being that is neither dead, but it also is neither alive. The only thing I can actually point at from a scientific standpoint is a virus. Science says that the virus is not alive because, according to the rules of science, okay, the virus simply has no reproductory part in its metabolism. Okay, so definitely science will call it that it is not alive. But at the same time, it is alive because it is not dead either. It is, a virus is just a very small thing, okay? And I've been telling people that face masks don't help because the virus is a few, micrometers uh, in size, okay? Like, they're 1 million times smaller than a human cell, okay? And the point is, your face mask will never protect you against particles that small, okay? Just breathe some smoke, okay, through your face mask, and you'll see it doesn't protect against that smoke. It won't protect against any virus. Now, the point about this is um, the virus is actually alive, okay? It has its own functions, it's doing its own purposes, okay? And yes, it relies on a host to simply become capable of breeding, okay? But it is alive. Science, however, calls it not alive, so I can actually call it undead, okay? Not dead, but not alive either. Now, in terms of existence, okay, I've been presenting this in several videos behind, okay, in my series, and I've said that each and every day is basically like a new life, okay? Every time you go to bed, you're technically dying, and you're waking up every time when you wake up, you're actually getting reborn, okay? Because you're technically reborn. If you sleep several hours, okay, even half an hour if you sleep, when you wake up, you're not the same person, okay? Most likely you will say, but hey, I'm looking at the mirror, it's the same me, right? Quite wrong, because in your body a lot of cells have died, okay? A lot of things have changed. A part of the food you ate is no longer in there. It's already part of you, right? So many processes have happened that your body is already changed. It's that people have become disconnected, so disconnected from these subtleties, and they just think that they are just this mass of flesh and bone, right? And nothing happens with it. It's kind of the same approach we thought about the universe, that, just because we didn't see much of its processes, we thought that space is, just some kind of calm manifestation, and, there is really nothing in there, there is really nothing happening, and, it's just simple, plain in existence, okay? Now, when people go to bed, okay, basically when death comes, okay, let's say from a standpoint of that being, with a size, okay, when death steps to a person, okay, and says, okay, it's time we go together, okay, death doesn't simply take into account who you are, who you were, how many people you fooled, how many people you helped, how much money you had, all that is gonna remain in this world, okay? And you have to realize that you have to be a bit more grateful for the things that you have in life, because life is very short. Each and every day when you wake up, several hundreds of thousands of people didn't wake up, okay? Their cycle in this life got over, okay? So death is a process that takes a long time. It's not an instant that boof, it happened and that's it, okay? It's nothing else, okay? Cells in the body are still dividing, okay? Their antivirus, system is still working, and so on and so forth, okay? Like, of course, dehydration and the such takes place, okay? So we can actually call that body partly undead, because it can still hear for a while, it can still see for a while, even after the separation, right? The dimensional body that leaves these other physical bodies, your mental body, your emotional body, right? These are physical bodies, much subtler, yes, but they are still physical bodies because they are made of energy, and energy is physical. So, in case you are wondering, energy indeed is physical, even if it is subtler, okay? Energy in its pure form is much subtler than matter, which is condensed energy, but again, it is something physical. Now, the point about these cycles of life, okay, I've also presented them in other videos, like for example video games. When you enter your favorite video game, okay, you see your characters, okay. Those characters are born because, well, the game is running. When you quit your game, those characters are deleted because, well, the game is no longer running. So what you see there on the screen is nothing else than a projection of the character you have created. Because the character you have created is a bunch of data in a somewhat, let's call it a somewhat of a text file. Okay, there are all the features that you choose are saved in a certain, let's call it a kind of a text file from which your character is simply rendered. Okay, now of course all these ideas that are put into a text file, they are simply loaded into you know, what you see as colors. Okay, now this cycle of life and so-called death, okay, it's basically the same, same thing. Okay, life simply happens and there is always change. Change is the only constant in this universe, and well, there is no such thing as death as we know it. Christianity had this really awful habit of turning death into something very terrifying, okay, but well, it is just a part of change, it is just a part of the cycle. Everything that is physical has a certain cycle of existence. Being physical means having a cycle of existence, which sooner or later will be over. Now, undeath is an aspect in which something may reclaim life, okay? This is something that can actually happen. And one way it can happen is, for example, in a cremation room, okay? A body that is put to fire. There can be very rare situations, okay? Many people don't know this, but there can be very rare situations in which that body might actually try to run away from there, okay? People haven't understood the fact that death is a very slow process. Basically, death begins with the moment we are born, okay? We are slowly, you know, our time is slowly ticking itself, you know, to our graves, okay? Each and every day that passes, basically we are one step closer towards our grave, if we are to, you know, become a bit poetical. But the idea is, when the higher dimensional bodies simply leave, okay, and this physical body is shed, the process of death as we know it, okay, clinical death or whatever one wants to call it, okay, that process is a very long process in which the chakras and everything in the body simply dissipate in time, okay? It's a very lengthy process. It takes many days, okay, to actually happen. In this meantime, there is still life force in the body because the life in the body still exists, okay? The body may have been shed, but the cells still exist. Even if the body is destroyed, namely shot at, or a painful, you know, like critical accident that, you know, renders the body unusable, okay, no longer compatible with life. Now that body still exists. It still has life force in it, which again dissipates, but it takes time for that to dissipate. Imagine now a certain frog, okay, and I don't know if most of you may have gone through this experiment, but we have been showing this experiment while I was at the faculty, okay, and I did ecology and environmental protection, and what we did is actually we killed a frog, okay, we decerebrated a frog, but guess what? Even if the frog died, if you poke at its muscles, there might still be some movement, okay? They might still react to that, okay? Because those things are still alive. They still have a life of their own. After the body is shed, it is said, well, science says that the body can still hear for around 6 hours. Probably it can still see for around 1 or 2 hours, okay? And the point is, as that still exists, okay, the problem, I mean, yes, it could be a problem, is that that body is still sipping in life force, okay, because life force comes through the soles of the feet, okay, and life force is still attracted by that body inside of it. Even if it is shed, its mechanics still work. Now, probably you're knowledgeable of the fact that when the person dies, okay, its toes are simply bound one to the other, okay? This is a way, well, in the ancient times it was well known, nowadays it's kind of forgotten, but this is a way of, you know, creating a break, okay? By binding the toes together, okay, you're signaling the body, you're kind of inhibiting the body from drawing any more life force in, okay, because it can happen that that body can actually wake up to life, okay. There is nothing occult in this, there is nothing evil, there is no you know, demon or whatever being simply entering that body, okay. You have to simply understand that that body still has a life force in it, okay, which, if not allowed to dissipate, the body will still attract life into it, okay. And, well, it might live a while, but it's gonna, you know, like it's not gonna be good, okay. It's exactly like the hideous thing that most people are doing nowadays. Instead of allowing old people to have a very simple and pleasant death, they simply want to prolong the existence of those people, and those people end up in horrible conditions in hospitals with all sorts of tubes inserted into them, and that causes a lot of karma, it causes a lot of pain, okay. That person simply won't have you know, easy and natural pain, okay. So all this will actually influence that person a while. It will simply, you know, people have become too attached to things, but they don't care about themselves. That is why the attachments are very strong, because you don't want those things, okay. You don't care about those things, but you just simply want them, okay. You don't care about them, but you want them in your life so bad, right? And especially after you lose them, that's when it becomes the most painful. And you have to understand everything has a cycle in life, okay. When something breaks, just let it broken, okay. That is why you will always see, if your car breaks and you change a piece, it's not gonna last as much as the original, okay, because that's technically how things work. Every time you replace something in a certain system, it's not gonna work the same, because it's not how it is meant. It's the same with people. When someone's natural death should come, just let that person have, you know, a very easy death, instead of prolonging their existence through agony and, you know, keeping them bound to machines and the such. Now the body might actually still gain life, okay, and basically it still does, because you go to sleep, this process is augmented away, in a way, and, you know, you gain the energy necessary for the next hours, okay, until you go back to sleep again. So the point is, the body can actually wake back to life, okay. It's not that the person came back, okay. Once the split happens, once those dimensional bodies leave, they're never gonna come back, okay. People may try spiritism, whatever, okay. There is an ancient science called Surya Sparsha. I read a bit about this, okay. It is a process through which someone can actually animate a dead body, but for a very short time frame, okay, several hours at most, probably one day. But again, it is done through certain practices, okay, occult practices, but they don't have any spiritual significance, okay. It's just one way of experiencing life, okay. Turning another body back to life is not something necessarily, you know, good in a way, because that body's existence is simply over, okay. It can only also be done until a certain time, because the body's energy simply dissipate. There are ways in which we can put back some energy into it, but if it starts to rot, well, it's kind of unusable anyways, okay. So even if some dead bodies can be animated, you know, through very advanced occult practices. That is not the case in this very rare situations in which a body can simply wake back to life. Okay, it's not that your grandparents came back to life or whatever. It's simply the body can actually work outside of the body that inhabited it. Okay, that is why some people, for example, if they learn how to displace their pranic body, their mental body or something like that, they can simply wander around in that body, and the physical body can be left and it does its own things. Again, this is another practice that doesn't have much of a, like a deep spiritual meaning, but okay, it doesn't matter. People are free to experience whatever they want. Now, when it comes to the body, okay, when you put it into the incineration, it's gonna be the same thing as when you poke at that dead toad's muscle, okay? Any of the muscles, they may still, the reflex can still exist. The reflex may still exist because that body is still alive. Those cells in there are still alive and they still care about their existence, right? You will still have white cells looking for, prey for dead cells, right? They will still multiply. The cells in your body will still multiply, okay? It's just a fact that when you tie the person's, when you tie the person's toes, okay, you are inhibiting the body's capability of drawing more energy, okay? The less life energy it has, okay, the more lethargy is induced in the body. The more lethargy it is induced in the body, the less things will happen in the body, okay? It's an awkward mechanic, I could say, for people who just use their mind, okay, who use their mind way too much. It's not gonna make too much sense to them probably, but the more lethargy is induced in the body, the less things will happen and the more things will take to happen, okay? It's like everything in the body acknowledges it is finally the time to let go, okay? So cells will simply no longer reproduce that much and they will simply let themselves go, okay? Because kind of that's what cells actually do. Instead of bursting, they simply know that they are, in their intelligence, they know that their death, if they die, okay, they will burst. If they will burst, they are dangerous to others because the interior of theirs, okay, is harmful to the other cells, okay? They can actually harm other cells through this, so they change their, they change their aspect, okay, their chemistry, so that they appear as an enemy. Okay, this is called apoptosis, and they signal, the macrophages that they are ready to die, and the macrophages see them as enemies, so they eat them. So when you go to sleep, okay, this process of life simply, it doesn't fully end, okay, but what you should understand as life, okay, life in its entirety, okay, means awareness, okay? Life means awareness. But if you look around, you'll see that so many people are simply not aware of their existence. So we can, puns aside, we can actually say that we live in, The Walking Dead, because people who simply live in impulses, people who live in the past, people who don't embrace the present, they are basically undead, okay? You have to remember one quote, one big quote that says, everybody dies, but not everyone lives life. Because living life means doing everything or as many things as possible, okay, in a conscious matter, okay, in a conscious way. When you do things in a conscious way, it's, it's like, it's much easier, okay? You can assume responsibility and your life becomes much more graceful. And you can simply become more grateful, because you can only be grateful when you are conscious, okay, when you are awake, when you are aware of the things around you. If people want to live life unconsciously, okay, or subconsciously, their life will become miserable, mainly because they will simply let circumstances decide their existence. When you let circumstances decide their existence, your existence, a lot of things can happen. And of course, people in lower vibrations will always embrace things like, but it's this one's fault, it's that one's fault, pointing the blame on others. This is not a way, okay? This is not a good way to live life, because you're straying away from your authenticity. You will simply realize what authenticity means to you the more graceful you feel in life, and the better your life feels. Again, to each and every person this will differ. Some people might feel authentic when they kill, some people might feel authentic when they cheat, some people might feel authentic when they help others. Most of the people will feel authentic when they do whatever they like, okay? We all have certain, let's call them, little life purposes to do, although the idea of a life purpose is something that people have, as of late, been giving too much meaning to it, and well, meaning is kind of a self-destruction button, okay? I have a video on this as well. But the point is, if you give a lot of meaning, more than you should, you're kind of again straying away from authenticity. Something that you do, you don't do it out of an impulse, because if you do give something more importance than it needs, okay, you're doing it impulsively, because overdoing something is a result of an impulse, okay, a compulsion to do something, to prove yourself something, or to prove other people something, but it is still a compulsion. A compulsion is a way of living in the past, because you're allowing a certain circumstance or action or reaction that you took toward a certain event, you allow that to still influence you, and that is why you're having these compulsions. And compulsion means, just like habits, it means unconscious doing, okay? A habit means unconscious doing because you are allowing a certain repetitiveness to trigger. Sure, you can have a conscious habit, it's not a problem, okay? It's actually very good, because it's much more difficult than people might think, okay? You have to understand that a habit will always remain an unconscious thing. If you do something again and again and again, at least do it consciously. You will see that it's much trickier than you will believe. Initially, you'll believe it is very easy. So life means being aware, okay? The more aware you are, the more you meditate, for example, the more self-aware you are, okay? It is something that's called full body awareness, okay? You're aware of each and every part of yourself. You may be aware of several other dimensions, okay? And you may be aware of whatever thought goes through your mind, whatever emotion goes through your mind, okay? There is a practice that goes something like, before you go to bed, write down all the thoughts that come through your mind, okay? Whatever bad things people said about you, whatever, like shit people said or done or whatever. I would also say, one step further, rip that piece of paper or pieces of paper and burn them. I would say burn them, because when you write those things down, you're also going to manifest extra emotions that are going to be impregnated on those pieces of paper. So keeping them won't necessarily do you good energetically, because if you're having a notebook, the next page you're going to write, you're still going to take that notebook in your hands, so you're still going to connect yourself with all the energies you have invested in that notebook. Okay, so things are much more complex, okay? But you'll realize this with a certain level of awareness. Now, the idea of undeath, as I've presented, is basically living life unconsciously. Everyone dies, but not everyone lives life, okay? So, as I was saying, you can simply be an undead. Not necessarily like in fantasy movies, fantasy games and the such. But chances are you might be one to a certain extent, okay? At least a lot of people around you definitely are, okay? So all this being said, hopefully you liked the topic of this video. I began in a way like sloppy, yes, I know, I'm still dizzy in a way, and I don't know, it's like I'm a bit dizzy for some reasons. I don't know exactly why, but well, it's all part of the process. So all this being said, you are loved and appreciated. Take care of yourselves, become more introspective, and you'll see that the answers you've been looking for They are there inside of you. They're just waiting for you to become introspective enough to see them. Feel free to like and subscribe, share some of my videos with others in case you know or feel it might help them. Uh, Share some of your wisdom with me, and together we may actually raise the awareness of humanity. You are loved and appreciated. You are more than good enough. Take care. Ferengian Board signing out.